Welcome to Chapter 6, entitled Experimental Research. What is causality? It suggests that a single event, the cause, always leads to another single event, the effect. The conditions for causality. To confirm causality in a relationship, it must consider the conditions or factors that may exist. Necessary condition occur if the phenomenon of which it is a cause is to occur. Sufficient condition always followed by the phenomenon which it causes. Contributory conditions increase the probability that a certain phenomenon will occur, but they do not make it certain. Contingent conditions, referred to as a given variable, is a contributory basis for inferring causal relationships. One type of evidence for inferring a causal relationship is known as concomitant variation. Concomitant variation, or covariation when there are two variables, indicates that the independent variable x and the dependent variable, or assumed effect y, are associated in the way predicted by the causal hypothesis. A second basis for inferring a causal relationship between two variables relates to the time order of occurrence of the variables. The third basis for inferring a causal relationship is non-spuriousness, or evidence ruling out other factors as possible causes of the dependent variable. Controlling variables is an important part of experimental design. Controlled variables refer to variables or contributing factors that are fixed or eliminated in order to clearly identify the relationship between an independent variable and a dependent variable. Independent variable is the experimental variable. It also is referred to cause or causal variable and the predictor variable. Dependent variable is known as the effect, the subject variable, or the criterion variable. It is caused, or at least affected, by the independent variable. Random assignment is a way of placing participants from your sample into different treatment groups using randomization. Types of validity of experience are internal and external validity. Internal validity refers to the possibility that the conclusions drawn from experimental results may not accurately reflect what went on in the experiment itself. Threats to internal validity. Threats association with participants are selection, maturation, attrition, and history. Threats association with measurements are regression, instrumentation, testing effect. External validity is important because it relates to the possibility that conclusions drawn from experimental results may not be generalizable to the real world. Threats to external validity. 2. The interaction effects of selection biases and the experimental variable. 3. The reactive effects of the experimental arrangements. 4. Multiple treatment interference. Experimental designs refers to how participants are allocated to the different groups in an experiment. Types of experimental design are pre-experimental design, true experimental research design, quasi-experimental design. Pre-experimental design is a research format in which some basic experimental attributes are used while some are not. Types of pre-experimental design are one-shot pre-experimental design, one-shot static group design, and one-shot pretest poster design. 1. The one-shot case study. The one-shot case study, which can be diagrammed simply as XO, is an extremely weak design. 2. The one-group pretest post-test design represents a slight improvement over the one-shot case study. 3. The static group comparison, which improves a bit more on the preceding designs, known as the static group comparison. True experimental design is a statistical approach of establishing a cause and effect relationship between different variables. Types of true experimental design are the pretest post-test control group design, the Solomon four-group design, the post-test only group design, and factual design. 1. The pretest post-test control group designone of the classic, true experimental designs is usually referred to as the pretest post-test control group design. 2. The Solomon four-group design. A second standard true experimental design is referred to as the Solomon four-group design. True experiments and correlational studies. True experiments can be conducted in real-life settings, assuming the controls are adequate. Such experiments are often referred to as field experiments. Difficulties to be avoided. In order to design an experiment that will be as reliable and valid as possible, the researcher should attempt to avoid the following. Evaluating the experiment. In evaluating the design and results of an experiment, there are several points that the researcher should consider. Quasi-experimental designs usually include naturally occurring groups, but they often involve more than one group. Types of quasi-experimental designs. 1. The time series design is an example of a single group quasi-experimental design. 2. The equivalent time samples design is where the intervention is taken away several times. 3. The pretest post-test non-equivalent control group design address some of the issues arising with assignment bias and the allocation of participants to groups. Ex post facto designs represent a weaker type of quasi-experimental design. They are designed to simulate real experimentation by using a static group type comparison. Web-based experiment. Web-based or internet-based experiments are becoming more common, especially in some of the social sciences. This technique allows researchers to collect large amounts of data from widely dispersed people and locations at minimal cost.